phone.
The Radio Cayman app
is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Talk Today is brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk Today.
What's on your mind, Cayman? If you're ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Discussing current events and local news, community spotlights, hot topics, listener stories, cultural and historical discussions, environmental issues, fun and lighthearted topics, guest interviews. Cayman, basically anything you want to talk about, we are ready to listen. Here's your guest host, Charles Glidden.
Coming up next, West Bayers speak on development, population, and more. Later in the show, it's open line when you express what's on your mind. Talk Today's next. Stay with me.
Talk Today is reminding you
to avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
And now, back to Talk Today.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Talk Today. Glad you can join me amid all the other things that you're trying to get done today, right? I hope you had an enjoyable weekend, for Discovery Day and all. Cameron Brack, did you have a good party, a good Brackenow? I hope you did. Well, it is Tuesday, so, it's back to the grindstone and taking care of business, getting it all together. Well, on Talk Today, our callers have often expressed their views on affordable housing, population growth, and the need for environmental protection. And today we're going to be hearing from a small group of West Bayers who share those same concerns. And joining me in the studio now are Kenneth Ebanks, better known in the West as Clytus, Laura Powery Eglishaw. She is going to be addressing some environmental issues, and also a gentleman who is no stranger to the public arena, Mario Ebanks. Folks, good afternoon. Welcome to the studio.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Inspector Jello.
Well, let's get started by finding out exactly about this group of concerned citizens. Are you organized, with articles of association and such, or tell us about the group?
Okay. As of yet, no, we are not. We were formed.
Just stay a little closer to the mic. Yeah.
Okay. About 2 years ago, when government initiated review of the development plan, the planning statement, we formed what we call the West Bay Feedback Committee.
Mm.
Yeah, and we then submitted our report to government, to the Planning Appeals Tribunal, which we had a verbal presentation with them on the 16th of January.
Yeah,
16th of January.
And also the 4th of December as well.
Right. But no, we are not a NGO, maybe at some point in the future, but just now, no, we are not. Those were just a group of concerned citizens. We like to suppose look at some issues primarily related or as they impact West Bay, but general islands wide.
Was there anything in particular that sparked you all coming together?
You mean the three of us or the West Bay Feedback Committee?
The committee.
Well, we came together primarily to offer comments on the proposed amendments to the proposed amendments to the planning statement, which forms part of the development plan. So you have the planning statement, which is basically the policy document. Then you have the zoning map, which which shows the various zoning throughout the island. Then you have the planning law and the planning act and the planning regulations that stipulate what you can do in each of those zones.
Well, we've been talking quite a bit here on Talk Today about the housing situation, which a new report was just tabled in Parliament. Population figures coming out. What did you make of that housing report?
Well, I would. What we would like to talk about today, Chalo, with respect, the housing is part of this whole thing of long-term planning, but the whole issue of population and carrying capacity, which housing fits in.
Yeah, that's very much a part of it.
Very much a part of it, and so our chairman, we actually co-opted him.
Just get a little closer to.
We actually volunteered him to be the chairman because of his previous experience and long service in planning, as ending as director of planning and moving on to other consulting roles. But the whole issue of long-term planning, as you know, the development plan, which he's best to tell you, has not been reviewed in a number of years, a long time. And it's we need to get it done. And so the reason that we got together was to look at all aspects in the planning statement, including housing. So I'll just let our chairman, and then also want to say to you that the West Bay Feedback Committee, we did our submission to, as he mentioned, to the ministry and to the planning CPA on the 6th of August of 2024, and our submission had we had meetings. We had about 4 or 5, maybe 6 meetings, and put together a big report. It was signed by over 45 individuals and people who came out to these meetings and very concerned about where the country is going. So with that kind of introduction as to our committee and our work, I will then defer then to Chairman about the housing issue.
And also before he continues, if you remember, these meetings came about by Plan Cayman meeting with all the districts in the 3 Cayman Islands, right? And then we had our West Bay feedback after that. And then we sent our letter to planning, which we have stamped here from the August the 6th of our conclusions, which we have here in case Kenneth wants to read it.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, Chalo, I did a cursory review of the housing report. And, a little caveat. I am not here as a spokesperson for the Ministry of Housing or government in general.
Okay.
Okay. So
people might still associate you.
My comments are just that. They are my comments based on my cursory review of that document that was tabled in the House last month or this month? Last month.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what I can say about the report based on what my cursory review is that I think it was a well put together report. There's a lot of data and information. So anyone who is very interested in it should avail themselves to a copy. one of the things I found in going through the report was we looked at higher density for housing and how various sectors of the population looked at what kind of housing we want.
Because everybody's dream is that little house with the picket fence. And
90% of the respondents to the various surveys said they want a single-family house, again with their little backyard and front yard and nice big side yards. 90% of the respondents say that's what they prefer. Now, as I have and many other countries that try to provide affordable housing for their different sectors of their population, have found that you really can't provide affordable housing at a meaningful scale if you build just houses, what we call a single-family house. That is the most expensive way in which to build affordable housing. So by building that way, you automatically contradict what you're trying to do by providing or to try and provide affordable housing. The report actually had a number of good recommendations. It's going to require government to make some hard decisions because some of the recommendations, which are necessary in order to provide affordable housing, they're suggesting some different forms of taxation, which I'm sure that my good friend Mickey would endorse.
Yes.
So would I. But again, one section of the report spoke to 90% of the respondents wanting this type of house, this type of affordable housing. Further on in the report, it asks the question more or less in a different way. More people said they prefer higher densities.
But that's not really a realistic thing to believe that everybody can have their own little house. I mean, we got limited land.
It depends on the population, right?
Yeah.
If you have a small population and a lot of land, then yes, everyone can have.
But I mean, even countries as big as North America, as far south as Australia, as far north as Denmark, they all know that trying to provide affordable housing, you can't do it, say, at a impactful scale by building houses. You have to do greater densities in order to achieve some sort of economies of scale.
And when we say higher density, now we're talking about condominiums, apartment type buildings.
Right. Well, okay. Condominium is a type of ownership. So apartment building can become a condominium where they're sold individually. It could still be it's still an apartment building. Where you have an apartment building that is rent to own or just for rent. So when you talk about multifamily, look at anything from a duplex, 2 units side by side, or one on top of the other. We see a number of variations of that throughout the island, but they're not really a duplex. A duplex has a common wall, vertical or horizontal.
We have to take a pause here and get in some commercial time. We'll be right back.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Kimmanbrack and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
This is Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. For 50 years, we have been broadcasting from downtown Georgetown on Grand Cayman in the Cayman Islands, 89.9 FM and 93.9 FM. We are a Caymanian legacy to be treasured. Don't touch that dial.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Welcome back, and we're talking about some topical issues with some folks from West Bay. Issues that are shared by a lot of people. Right now we're taking a look at housing. And what that report said, we need 5,000 units in the next 15 years?
Yes.
So again, that puts us urgency on the matter that, building individual units is not going to, meet that demand.
No. Yeah. Unless you bring in a lot more or a much bigger workforce.
Which adds
to the whole
situation.
Housing issue. You have to house them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But right here in Georgetown, there was there's talk about a 10-story structure right here in Goring Avenue or
Boilers Road.
Boilers Road, right? So if you do that kind of thing, you end up with issues with traffic and parking and aesthetics and other social issues as well. So it's all about having a plan, and that's what we want to try to talk about. That's why we, the West Bay Feedback Committee, were so keen to look at this whole planning statement and come up with some suggestions around how we can get a plan that is sustainable, as Laura mentioned. It's all about sustainability. And saying we need 5,000 units, but not looking at what kind of population we need to have a carry capacity that we can handle. Because right now you look at traffic, you look at the environment, you look at social issues, and everything else is driven by population growth. Until you get your head around that, you're fighting a losing battle.
And it's artificial population growth, not birth rate, right? We're bringing people in, and then we're saying, we need to house them, but we bring them in first without the housing. So it's a carriage before the horse. But also we're tearing down all the trees to make these houses possible, the parking possible, the new roads possible, and now we're complaining about the heat.
It's like a vicious cycle.
It is.
It's backwards. It's totally backwards.
I mean, one of the first things they tell you in planning school is that, if you solve one problem, you create another.
Yeah.
But that's life in general. If you take out an organism, right, say a fly or a mosquito or ducks or whatever, something's going to happen to your population with the food chain. It's going to be replaced by something else.
So all these things are interlinked, one affecting the other. And in a laissez-faire capitalist society, free enterprise, sometimes it's hard to really control those sort of things, right?
Sorry. Yes, it is hard, and sometimes it becomes harder depending on who is in government. Like I said, elections have consequences. But it is not impossible. Let's take higher densities. They work best, for example, when they're close to or onto a major thoroughfare. So easy access to public transport. But we don't really have a proper public transport system. But we've got some main roads, and if you put that housing close to those main roads, then the tenants or persons, the residents of those affordable housing, then wouldn't have to rely so much on having to get their own vehicle. We could also reduce the parking requirements for apartments, because as it is right now, you need 1.5 parking spaces.
That's an interesting figure.
1.5, yeah.
But if you reduce that, then people are parking on the street, which is another problem.
But if there's no demand or no need for them to have their own vehicle, because you have a proper public transport, then it's cheaper to ride the public transport than to own your own vehicle.
True, but you can't stop them from purchasing a car either, so you could still end up each one having a car.
Yeah, again,
unless there's a law.
Yeah, right. I'm saying depends on who you have.
If there's a policy.
And would we ever dare go there, like Bermuda?
Well, as Clyde has mentioned, we need to make some tough decisions. But until we do that, we're not going to get there. I mean, I drove into the wonderful housing establishment in Northside over the weekend, and it's beautiful. You know, the new one that the government is doing there, and some people have already moved in. But it's very nice, but it's single family and it's nice yards and all that. The same thing has been done for all the other developments. The only one that was a little bit different, but not so much different, was the one that was done with the metal housing, the one that didn't stand up too well during Hurricane Ivan, and that was done near the Cox Lumber area, near the Boilers Road, and then also was in West Bay, at the gardens there in Joan Osbert Road area in Bush Tree Hill. But we need to do something. But if you look at, for example, that new Grand Hyatt that's going to be opening before the end of this year, they're going to probably have to bring in a couple of thousand workers. Where are they going to live?
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about that? Not you mentioned the traffic coming out of that site. So there's really no plan. And one thing that got the West Bay Feedback Committee very concerned was that we're doing all of this, and as Paul Keynes Douglas said, and you're a student of Paul Keynes Douglas as well, we're at the edge of the precipice and about to make one bold step forward, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing all this thing, but there's no plan, and the planning process that we're going through right now, it started, I think the Progressives, when they were in power, they started the Plan Cayman exercise. Then when they lost power in 2021, the PAC government came in, and they didn't really make it a priority, and so it languished for 4 years. And toward the end of their term, when the government changed to the new one that was formed a couple of months before the election, they kind of try to kickstart it, and we're still on that. But they don't have any resources assigned to it, maybe 1 or 2 officers in planning department, and they don't have the structure or the time or the resources. And so this exercise could take 10 years to get finished. In the meantime, we've been strangled with traffic, social problems, housing shortages and all these things, and there's no plan. And population is growing, but the whole thing of carrying capacity is not being considered. So it's like a perfect storm. And that's why we are so concerned as the West Bay Feedback Committee. And we got together. We were the only district to actually form a committee to look at this subject and submitted a very detailed report. We hope that it's being taken serious by government. As Clyde has mentioned, our chairman, we met before the Planning Tribunal on the 4th of December and the 15th of January, and we gave them our points, and they gave us some good time to express our views. We're hoping that government doesn't rush this process through without taking it through and giving it resources, because we're going to be some serious fireworks if it happens.
I mean, you say that they don't rush it through, but then on the other hand, it's urgent and it has to be put on the front burner.
Good point. What I meant by that is they don't rush through and ignore the feedback from people like ourselves. But I agree, we don't want to delay the process. We want the process to move forward as quickly as possible. But it may be, as we said in our report, they may have to do things like a hotel moratorium on large hotels or other large reclamation projects while this exercise is being done. Otherwise, the development / destruction can overtake the planning that needs to go into providing for a sustainable carrying capacity. So it has to be thought out and not just rushed through for the sake of getting it done. Let's do it properly, but put in place the resources to the planning department and to this exercise so that they can have the people to do the work.
And Laura, what about the environmental considerations here?
One of the things we had we were talking about the Plan Cayman quality of the natural environment, and one of the things we had in our letter to planning was 6.D was no additional removal of coastline mangrove buffer, no more removal of wetlands. But the last 2 years we've been talking about this, we've seen more and more removal, right? So while we're trying to get government to protect the environment, it's just happening so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things are being removed, wetlands are being removed for AstroTurf, areas for residential, for housing, for parking lots. We're seeing more and more of that happening. So by the time we get this plan, there might be nothing left to save.
Mm-hmm. So are the wetlands really the only place now to expand into?
Well, there's always up.
Up. Well, again, back to high density, right?
Yes. I mean, let's look at it realistically. We are a very, very small unit of land.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately 30 to 50% of the island could be considered wetlands. A lot of countries now are striving to protect at least about 30% of their land mass as natural open space. You can have some parks and this, but with limited human interaction, but are left in its natural state. That's an aim of a lot of countries, 30% of their land mass. Now, the current residential zoning on Grand Cayman, because there's no zoning in the sister islands. We have, I think
there's no zoning?
No zoning in the sister islands.
So anything can be put anywhere?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
You didn't.
That's one reason why the Little Cayman people wanted to prioritize. They wanted to prioritize the planning to be done there so they don't get into the same mess that we have got into in Grand Cayman.
Okay, that was a
You learned something new?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Under the current zoning map for Grand Cayman, we have 28.04 square miles of residential zoned land. Now, that 28, and of that 28 square miles, we have 23.5 square miles of that zoned low density residential. So that's why you find a lot of the housing the low cost housing is being built in low density areas, which is where the most expensive land, residential land is. So you're already defeating yourself on your approach to providing affordable housing.
All right, we have to take a break here. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, you can give us a call. 1-800-534-8255. That is courtesy of Flo. You can also reach us on 949-8037, 949-6990, or WhatsApp 925-3261. We'll be right back.
Looking to explore your future in Cayman's insurance industry? Join us at the Cayman Next Gen Insurance Forum on May 28th at the Marriott. This free event is designed for school leavers, university students, and early career Caymanians, with parents also welcome. Learn how the insurance and reinsurance industry works, hear from young professionals, and connect directly with people in the field. The event runs from 2:30 to 6 p.m. with refreshments provided. Register now at imac.ky or follow at imaccayman on Instagram for more information. Hosted by IMAC, Circa, and CIIA.
There's nothing more important than your health, and seeking expert healthcare with physicians you can trust is what you deserve. UHealth, the University of Miami Health System, offers peace of mind to you and your family with a first-class experience. Our patient coordinators assist with everything you need before, during, and after your stay with us. As South Florida's only academic-based health system, UHealth offers cutting-edge treatment, compassionate care, and life-changing results just a flight away. Learn more at umiamihealth.org/international.
Hey, K-Man, this is DJ Lynn. Catch me live weekdays from 7 till 10 a.m. on The Morning Breeze, our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM. We're waking you up with the best adult contemporary hits with the 70s, 80s, 90s, and much more. So start your morning the K-Man way with me, DJ Lynn, on The Morning Breeze.
Radio K-Man's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Welcome back, and we're talking about Cayman's population growth, the housing situation, and how do we go about planning, so that things don't really run off the rails here. And I have in the studio Kenneth Ebanks, also Laura Powery Eggleshaw, and Mario Ebanks, and they're from the West Bay Feedback Committee, and they've been making their thoughts on these issues known to government, and so they're here to tell us all about that. While we were in the break, we were talking about some of the conflicts that appear on things like the planning board and so forth over the years. Do you think we need to, insist that the government put more objective members on planning to be able to, take a even neutral look at what comes before them?
Well, I think definitely the CPA board should be fair and biased when it comes to giving development or giving permission for planning, because the board always seems to have been having a conflict of interest in the past, where it's more for development and less protecting the environment. The NCC was always the board that seemed to be protecting the environment. But as I noticed the other day in the Compass, people from CPA were now being on this NCC board, like Mr. Handel Whitaker, for example. That shouldn't be allowed. To me, that's a big conflict of interest when you have people from one board go to another board which are in complete conflict with each other. One is trying to do more development, the other one's trying to protect the environment. So how can you have the same one person on both boards, right? The NCC...
For our listeners, just explain what NCC is.
Yeah, the NCC is a National Conservation Council, and we have a policy and act, a National Conservation Act. So I think the last amendment was in Law 24 of 2013, the NCC, and this is their law for Cayman, this law can be cited as a national conservation law, and it says a law to promote and secure biological diversity and sustainable use of natural resources in the Cayman Islands, to protect and conserve. Those are two words that we're not doing at the moment. We're tearing everything down, right? Mm-hmm. To protect and conserve endangered, threatened, and endemic wildlife. That includes Caymanians. We're indigenous wildlife and their habitats. To provide for protected terrestrial wetland, we should highlight wetland, and marine areas, to give effect to the provisions of the protocol concerning specially protected areas and wildlife, to the Convention for the Protection and Development of the Marine Environment of the wider Caribbean region. So all of this is about protecting Cayman, not removing everything green for a parking lot or a new road or a new hotel. But that's exactly what we're doing. So there's a huge conflict there.
Could I also add to that discussion about the conflicts and the contradictions? Recently in Parliament, there was a private member's motion seeking to do an amendment to the Development Planning Act. It was put forward by MP Mr. Chris Saunders, and there was an article in the Caymanian Times on Friday the 1st of May where the National Trust is opposing that new bill, and the National Trust is saying that the amendment would the new section would grant the CPA and the Development Control Board exclusive authority in planning matters. In simple terms, this would override the consultation requirements established in other statutes, including the National Conservation Act. So what we're saying that there's no plan. There's so much contradiction, so much conflicts that, this is one. The other one is where the road, the east-west arterial, where they're going to slot that particular path. One group is saying it should be done where it's less environmentally damaging, and then it seems like government is pushing it through.
And it's also less costly.
And also less costly. So there's two gains to be made from that. But yet, for some reason, and I think we can guess what that is, they're gung ho about putting it through a particular path. So, it is really vexing for a country when you see this kind of thing happening. And we're not talking about us, we're talking about future generations. What are they going to have as the Cayman Islands to be able to live and enjoy if we destroy it all now?
I think in my memory, any new road that ever went in, you always hear, well, they're putting it there so that one can benefit from it.
Yeah, of course.
So you think that is involved in the choice of this route?
It is very, very possible.
Well, it opens up land use, right, for people who have land there.
I mean, it's always good to open up land for dual purposes. But there's been studies done on the east-west arterial, and it suggests that you're not going to be saving much time in terms of traffic movement, of transportation movement. You're going to end up getting the people to the bottleneck quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get into Georgetown, you're not going to be able to go anywhere, right? So you're going to spend $1 billion for that road, and you're going to allow people to develop that land to put more traffic into those arterials to feed into a transportation route that's going to end up in a bottleneck.
Everybody meets at the Tomlinson roundabout there by Prospect.
And there you have the motorcade that's creeping ever so slowly. I was creeping there this morning because I came out from North Side this morning. And it's just really, it's not how to do it 101 is what we have done for the last 30 years. And that's why the development plan is so important to get done. And that's why we are adamant as the West Bay Feedback Committee to make sure that the plan is done properly, but also done timely and done sensibly.
So in a free enterprise society, how do we do that? How do we go about doing this now?
Well, every country has a policy with immigration, right? So some countries might say, well, if you don't have housing, or if you don't have a house, you can't stay, or if you don't have a work permit, you can't stay. You don't just bring in, busloads of people and said, okay, we'll figure it out later. Right. You stop them at the border. You don't let them in the first place unless you can accommodate, if your carrying capacity is for it, if you've planned for this in advance. That's how other countries do it. That's how every country do it, or does it rather.
I think we have a little twist on it, though. I mean, in our case, people who are already here, people who are Caymanians, are saying, government, I want to bring in these 10 people.
But for what reason?
To work for me. I have this business that I'm doing, and I need 10 people. I need 20 people. I want to do this.
But I'm sure not.
I mean, they're not just coming as immigrants,
right.
into the country. Our own people are bringing them in.
Yeah, but that's a very small statistic compared to what the big hotels are doing. I mean, you might have a house that needs a helper, and they might want a particular helper. That's one maybe. But you're not going to get every Caymanian bringing in 10 people. But every hotel is going to bring in.
But I mean, there's a number of Cayman business people who are reliant on foreign labor also.
But we do have labor here as well, right? We have students, we have people here.
We can't fill all the jobs that we're creating with our Caymanians alone. We have to decide whether we have to stop some business licenses when we don't have local labor availability. We can't expect for school leavers to take on jobs that they're not ready for. We have to be realistic with that. But that's where we have to look at population planning. Could I just share with you,
Go ahead,
very briefly? I was Chamber of Commerce manager from 1988 to 1992. And when I was there, this whole issue was about economic development and growth management was high on our agenda. And when I was manager, myself and the council started a process of looking at a study on economic development growth management. And the report from that work came out in June 1993. I just read one paragraph of the findings. We did a survey, right? We did a survey, and it says 80% of respondents feel that Caymanians should retain a population majority in Cayman. And 90% of those felt that the ratio should be 60% or more in favor of Caymanians. 49% suggested a 60-40 ratio, and 41% a 70-30 ratio in favor of Caymanians. Methods which were suggested included 1. A slower and more manageable pace of development. 2. The grant of status to long-term residents of more than 10 years. 3. The formulation of a labour needs budget. 5. The grant of a business license on the basis of composition and source of the proposed labour force of the applicant. What that meant is that if you had a business license or applying for a business license, you couldn't prove that you had the majority of Caymanian availability for your business, you wouldn't get a license. Well, who's going to do that? This politician going to do that because that's potentially suicide. But it's the right thing to do.
Also, again, take Bermuda as an example. They have a policy whereby they don't build any new hotel rooms until they have reached, I think it's a 60% occupancy rate for those existing hotels.
Okay.
And the Bahamas have a rule where their people work, right, in the tourism sector.
What was that rule?
Me or her?
Yeah, Laura.
You were going to say something.
No, she talked about Bahamians being able to be employed, but Clyde is talking about the occupancy.
You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Chalo, to add to those 2 points, when the government of Honourable Norman Bond and Honourable Benson Ebanks put in place the hotel moratorium around, I think 1990 or so, right? Mm-hmm. They became very unpopular. Although it was the right thing to do. And when the government got in, the national team government got in 1992, the first thing they did was lift that hotel moratorium and open back up the floodgates on 7 Mile Beach. So we have had a history of failing to plan, and I'm afraid we're going to plan to fail because we got to that point now where it's like a perfect storm.
It is 1 o'clock, and that means we got to check in with the newsroom, but our guests are going to stay with us for another half hour or so. We'll be right back after the news headlines.
Radio station. Radio Cayman is the voice of the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The Headline News is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
With your latest headlines, I'm Elizabeth Charles. The Cayman Islands Mayo Clinic is reminding the public in a statement today that nearly 1 in 3 adults is living with high blood pressure or receiving treatment, according to data released this month by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The ministry says about 35% of those affected are unaware they have the condition. Health experts warn high blood pressure often develops without symptoms but can increase the risk of heart attack, stroke, kidney disease, and other serious health problems if left untreated. A physician with Mayo Clinic Healthcare says early detection is critical, noting a simple blood pressure check can help identify the condition. Risk factors include obesity, high salt intake, stress, and lack of physical activity. Preventative steps include regular exercise, a healthy diet, and routine monitoring of blood pressure. In other news, the Jamaica National Group is hosting a pre-diaspora conference webinar focused on real estate investment opportunities. In a statement, the group said the session is designed to help overseas Jamaicans and other investors understand how to purchase property and build wealth in Jamaica. The webinar, titled Securing Your Piece of the Rock, is scheduled for May 21st at 1:30 p.m. Jamaica time. It forms part of activities leading up to the 11th Biannual Jamaica Diaspora Conference in Mabay, June 14th to 18th. In international news, the World Health Organization warns an Ebola outbreak may be spreading faster than initially believed. WHO says investigations show the virus has already spread beyond the outbreak's epicenter. Officials report 131 deaths and more than 513 suspected cases. Modeling released today suggests there may have already been more than 1,000 cases, indicating possible under-detection. Officials say population movement and insecurity are complicating response efforts. However, the agency is deploying medical supplies and urging communities to report symptoms and follow prevention measures. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Elizabeth Charles.
More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
Your Cayman Islands Health Services Authority has been the national healthcare provider of the Cayman Islands for many generations. We have elevated our level of care to ensure you, our patients, have the best possible experience. We offer better access to care close to home with the most locations on all 3 islands, delivering a full range of primary, secondary, tertiary, and emergency care. HSA is a JCI accredited organization, and we are committed to caring for you.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Henry Watson Ruddy, ISO 1870 to 1943. Henry Watson Ruddy came to Cayman Brac as a young man with his father, William H. Ruddy, who was the first Baptist missionary to Cayman Brac and started the Baptist mission there. Dr. Henry Ruddy was born and educated in Jamaica and came to Cayman Brac as a young man. He was one of the first civil servants in the Sister Islands, holding the post of Collector of Customs. He was also the only medical dispenser on Cayman Brac which had no doctor. He mixed and dispensed medicines and also did minor surgeries, saving numerous lives. At times, he assisted his wife, Julia Ann Nee Lazari, a midwife who delivered nearly all the babies born on the Brac during Dr. Ruddy's term of service. He was also a school teacher and a preacher. On his retirement, his son Aston took over his government responsibilities.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
It's here. Multi-year trade and business licenses are now available. You heard right. You can apply for TBLs up to 5 years. Save time, reduce paperwork, and focus on growing your business. Apply online at dci.gov.ky. Apply for your multi-year trade and business licenses today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Welcome back, and let's take a quick look at the weather. It's 89 degrees here in Georgetown. Feels like 98 out there, and some rain falling in some spots around the greater Georgetown area and Grand Cayman, who I would expect. And that's pretty much what we can expect for the rest of the afternoon, with isolated thunderstorms also. And let's see what the forecast is looking like for this evening. Tonight, mostly clear skies with a 30% chance of showers in the early morning and possible thunder, particularly across the sister islands. Temperatures will fall to the low 80s. Winds easterly at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. And sunset at 6:53 today. Well, in the studio, we are now talking about housing, population, the environment. And in the studio with me are Kenneth Ebanks, Laura Clydas, Laura Powery Eggleshaw, and Mario Ebanks. So we have what we have surmised here is an urgent issue of planning where Cayman is going as far as population and providing housing to those who would need it, protecting the environment. So your group, the West Bay Feedback Committee, what are your suggestions? What are your recommendations to the government?
Well, I mean, we did in our letter of I think it was August of 2024. We did a significant amount of recommendations, and I guess Laura can kind of maybe capture some of those.
Do you want to read it?
But one of the things that we did was we said that there should be a pause in some of our development in the country in order to get this plan finished. So I know that sounds non-capitalistic or something that businesses wouldn't like, but we feel that if it's done right and we get a strong foundation for our country, businesses will love it because they'll have a much more secure future. It'll be better for our people, and also people who come to Cayman to work will not have to worry about poor conditions of housing and traffic congestion and everything else. So one of the things that we did in our report is we said there should be a moratorium on the approval by the CPA of large 10-story buildings, primarily in the coastal zones, until a new development plan is approved for the islands. We also said a moratorium by the CPA on further residential or resort commercial redevelopments in the 7 Mile Beach area until new coastal setback limits and rules are included in the regulations. And we said also a moratorium on the reclamation or filling of large tracts of wetlands until stormwater and drainage plans are designed, approved, and ready for implementation for specified zones within these islands. And number 4 of our recommendation was no additional removal of the coastline mangrove buffer. Now, one of the things that we noted that happened recently was that Parliament approved a new kind of system, and Claudius can speak more to this, about the coastal setback rules, and they're talking about coming up at a much better measurement or metric than the high water mark, which is a bit of a joke. So already there's some things happening that we have said no recommendation, but because it is all put there as something that's gone to the House but not actually being activated with laws or regulations, nothing is going to happen until you have it put into legislation. That, coupled with the fact that the planning process does not have the resources to get attended to properly, creates another problem. And so we're saying they need to put more resources. Government seems to be able to find funds to do everything else they want to do as a priority. Let's put plans into a proper development plan for these beautiful islands.
And the setbacks on the waterfront properties, is that going to happen?
Well, Chalo, I am not an elected member of Parliament, so I can't. I hope it does.
How do you feel about it? I mean,
Definitely. Because as it is right now, all setbacks on the coastline are measured from the high water mark. The high water mark is determined differently depending on the type of shoreline you have.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't stay in the same place all
no.
along.
So if your shoreline is beach or iron shore. If it's beach, you have what you call the high water mark, which is roughly 6 inches above mean sea level. So, a surveyor can go out there and physically find that point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you get some erosion, then that point is underwater, like on the Queen's Bottom.
But the erosion that we've seen in recent times along 7 Mile Beach, I mean, that has been blamed namely on being too close.
Correct.
To the sea, right?
Yes. And there's no two ways about that building those structures that close to the sort of active area of the beach, which is basically, if you go from the Storm Ridge to the sea, that's the most active area of the beach. And the Storm Ridge is basically where you find the vegetation line. So over the years, you really haven't had that much weather that moved the Storm Ridge. It was us humans that removed the Storm Ridge and built between the Storm Ridge and the sea.
And that should be highlighted. That point should be highlighted. It's not climate change that's doing all of this 7 Mile Beach erosion. There is climate change. We're not denying that. But
rising sea level is not the devil
we
here.
haven't seen any data of that in Cayman. But what we're doing to the beaches is man-made, right?
Mm-hmm. I know. So taking 7 Mile Beach as an example, it's zone hotel tourism, basically from Old Pageant Beach down to the West Bay Cemetery. That's hotel tourism. The setback there is 100 feet from high water mark. It used to be low water mark.
Okay.
Which is out into the sea.
So that's more protection.
Right. So I was able to, working with government at the time in the early 2000s, to get it changed from 100 feet from low water mark to 130 feet from high water mark, which basically set it back roughly 30 feet at a minimum.
I'm going to ask you all to put on your headphones. We do have a couple of callers that have been hanging on there.
Okay. So the zoning hotel tourism is 130 feet now from high water mark, but from the cemetery down to the West Bay by the launching ramp is 75 feet. Now, a storm coming doesn't care about the zoning.
Yeah. It's just coming.
It's just coming. The closer you are to the sea.
Let's go to the phone lines. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Talk Today. Hello, are you there? Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air. Good afternoon.
To you.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. For so many moons that we are concerned about what's taking place on our dear little island. But a natural fact remains that we are controlled by an acute dose of bureaucracy. Until we, the public, get our act together and say to the government and the authorities that are in power, this is not good enough. We have to have a say in all of what you guys are talking about. They have no interest in trying to form anything like a district council or an advisory committee from the public, because I will say so boldly and publicly, they're too big to be told. They don't want anybody, rocking their boat, whatever they see fit to do. That's it. If you look around in the last year that the election has gone and passed, all I ever see is a couple of paved roads, and some of it is not necessarily to be resurfaced again. it was okay. Now, I'm not here to complain. I'm here to state facts. Until we decided that we're going to call the hands of these, not just the elected people, but some other people as well, and say, we want a say in what goes on here. We just, sorry, don't take it for an offense, but we just hot air, and they see it. They feel that we are just all talk. So, gentlemen, I just wish you all the best, but it's high time that we decide that we need to flex some muscles instead of the government. We want district councils, and it's not formed by the government. It's formed by the people, for the people, and they have to negotiate what we want or what's beneficial to the island. Thank you so much for listening to me, and have a good afternoon, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, caller. Let's take another call from the WhatsApp line. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Talk Today.
Yeah. Good evening, astute group of people here.
Good evening.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah. Listening with keen interest and agreeing with 9.9 of what you're saying. And I tell you about the other 0.5% that I'm not. But yeah, it's good to know that you have a group of people that is concerned enough to speak out and are capable, more than capable, of telling it like it is, all of woes or ills of development. And no one Kimanian should be grateful to know that they have such, people that would actually just sacrifice themselves per se, because it's just not all easy just to show up. You know that you have a lot of wires to tie up, and just to even make the appearance. It's a great attribute to have from in a group in society that's willing to stand up and speak about our system, our development, how we have evolved up to now. And there is a lot of things, there's no government would have got it all right, but there's some glaring issues that have been overlooked. And I'm still wondering, was these people really asleep at the wheel, or did they have Cayman on automatic pilot? Because, there's certain things that, one road to East End, one road to West, where we see, all of that. And I guess we don't really want to talk about that because it is what it is. But it got us in a very precarious position that is hard to expand on that, to correct it. Like Mario was saying a while ago, back in his statements, that just about anywhere that you're looking for relief from a lot of this interior development road-wise, you'll bottleneck somewhere. I think the only solution might seem a bit primitive or premature to say, but I believe it is waterways. That'll probably be the next way, because, if you don't have a carrying capacity, see what the traffic is like, and it's getting more and more, because it seems to me that it has always been about more. I've heard politicians say that if you stop it, if you try to slow it down, the people will take the money and go elsewhere. This has been, one of their, mantras all along. It's like a scared tactic. But
yes,
whatever
sir.
happened to preservation? Whatever happened to preservation? It can't just be all about the income and you're forgetting about the outcome, the here and now. It's like having wisdom of a fool is what, live for today and die for tomorrow. But anyway, what I would say with all of what you all are saying, and as I said in my initial remarks, is that definitely from what I'm hearing, you all are saying just like it is and what could be and should be. Now, there's so much deciding factors to have the outcome of that. So much money is on the line, and people, you all know that, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
The ultimate to get the result, and if this doesn't work, then I don't want to say just throw our hands up in the air, but I can't think of anything else that has more impact on special and national issues than you have an island-wide protest per se, peacefully, take a survey of everybody's opinion, because Caymanians are that kind of thing. You got to take the music to them. a lot of them not gonna come out and listen to you. You know, they elect people, they delegate people, designate people, and they're the be all, end all. A lot of us seem to have that mentality, and it might have served us good up till now because nobody want to rock the boat per se. But it's time, high time, like what the last caller was saying, that we become involved in the future, or we won't have any.
Here.
So, having said that, I that's just a suggestion. Be all your decision, but I think that would be the ultimate people's power, signatures on concerns of national importance or development, the model we were on. I mean, do we want this to be living in Cayman that we can still actually live in the next 25 years or so? Or do we all want it now? Build a castle, put a pedestal on it here and now. What about the coming generation? Do we owe them something? The unborn. That's the one thing that has been missing out of all our development from my observations. Like Mario, I think was said about Benson Banks, and during that administration, they tried to put a moratorium for slow, and they got crucified for it.
Yep.
Because they were doing the right thing, but people was somehow more. That was it. We got to keep that bell ringing. That materialistic line had to keep coming. But the leaders have to know that they got to make unpopular decisions for the betterment of the long-term Cayman, and not just like Mario always says, one of his pet projects that I borrowed from. They have a lot for short-term gain, for plenty long-term pain.
Well, caller, thank you so much for your
right.
contribution to the discussion.
All the best.
Thank you.
All right, you take care.
All right, thank you, man.
I'd like to also thank that caller. I recognize the voice. He's also a fellow Mount Pleasant Lion. But the point he made, though, if I got a minute, he talked about water taxes or water ways be used. I think that's an excellent point. I mean, we are an island. We have ports that can be used. People could come from Waddingtown, East End, and come into either get off in Spots or get off in Georgetown. You can come across the North Sound from North Side into Georgetown. So there's ways of actually relieving some traffic, but again, it needs a plan, and other things like some other non-physical or non-infrastructural things like obviously a public transportation system. The government has been talking about this now for the last almost 8 years. Things like staggered time, private school busing and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that we are concerned about that caller also mentioned is where is the government going with this? And he talked about people power. And we have said, myself and the chairman, Clydas, and others have said that we wanted to give the government chance to look at our and other people's recommendations or feedback to this process. But if they try to ignore it all and push something through that makes no sense, then we will organize. And I think we've given them time to do that because we're not sure what's happening in caucus or cabinet with this Plan Cayman statement after all the representation to the tribunal. But we are going to be watching that very closely, and the chairman and others and many people in West Bay are concerned about it and are willing to take a stand if it goes the wrong way. And finally, Caymanians have a seemingly a fallacy, almost a disease, to think that you can have your cake and eat it too. We have to realize if we're going to save something, it means some sacrifice, and sharing in our progress means that we got to be realistic with how much we can do as a small group of islands.
I know this question is probably answered. It was answered at the top of the show, but it's probably worth mentioning again. This person is asking, is the group, the West Bay Feedback Group, politically affiliated?
No, but sorrow, ma'am, we are not.
But to answer that as well, everyone in Cayman is affected by politics, right?
Yeah.
And the signatures to our letter of August of 2024, like I said, it was 45 signatures, and they were from a broad cross-section of individuals, political affiliations, genders, and all Caymanians, obviously. But no, we have no political agenda. We have an agenda for sustainable development, for proper long-term planning for the islands, and we're willing to take the stand in a responsible manner without going into the political arena as of yet.
And this message is saying, great discussion. Building just a simple house without a plan, making a mistake is certain. Scooping out a country with poor or no proper planning is damning to everyone. Sounds like you got an endorsement there.
Well said.
Can I just remind the public as well? I think all four of us in this room were here in Cayman back when there was less than 25,000 population, right? And things were idyllic. We didn't have the issues we have now, so we can remember what it was like, and that it was sustainable. The carrying capacity was fair, it was balanced. We can maintain that if we were to have a right plan. But also, the policies that were made back in the past is something that we should not forget about. There were policies like the White Paper and the Environmental Charter, signed contracts between the UK and Cayman about protection. These are still contracts that we have today, right? So people can write to their MPs and say, hold on a second, what about these contracts that were already made? Why aren't we holding our government accountable? For example, the Cayman Islands Constitution Order 2009, Part 1, Section 18 says protection of the environment. Government shall in all its decisions have due regard to the need to foster and protect an environment that is not harmful to the health or well-being of present and future generations. We've kind of done that. We've already done made a lot of unhealthy decisions. And to this end, government should adopt reasonable legislative and other measures to protect the heritage and wildlife and land and sea biodiversity of the Cayman Islands. Now, we've already seen a lot of species disappearing. The crabs, right? We used to see back in the day so much wildlife that you don't see anymore. A lot of that's disappearing because of development and lack of a plan. So this contract, we're not holding accountable. We're not keeping this contract. It says to limit pollution and ecological degradation. I don't know if anyone's noticed that bad air quality we've had in the last few years. Industrial Park alone, you drive there and all the cement factories, there's dust blowing everywhere, and it blows from the east to the west. So all these low density neighborhoods and housing, we're a small island, we're all getting this dust in our lungs. These are things that we could avoid if we were to enforce this policy and have a plan and have a population control, cap the population, control the environment, and keep this pledge. The White Paper resulted in the Environmental Charter, and I'll only read two things out of that, or three things. And it says, to recognize that all people need a healthy environment for their well-being and livelihoods, and that can help to conserve and sustain it. To use our natural resources wisely, being fair to present and future generations. And number 7 said, to safeguard and restore native species, habitat, and landscape features, and control or eradicate invasive species. And again, this is a 10-point document. This is a document that was signed in 2001 after Baroness Valerie Amos came. She and Mr. McKeever Bush signed that in September 2001. And it's a pledge that they made, Britain and the Cayman Islands, to protect Cayman Islands. But we're not seeing this protection. No one's talking about it. We should be taking these policies seriously. Yeah. It's a contract. These are contracts that were made.
Some of these documents that you all have brought up, I mean, it shows that these questions are not new questions.
No, sir.
These are not new issues.
No, if we go back to, the 1975 proposed development plan. From there, they were saying that, once your population sort of get out of whack, whereby you have a lot more non-locals than locals, then you start getting into a lot of social decay. Are we experiencing that?
Yes. Yeah. Loss of culture, number 1.
All right, so we're down to 1:31. You all can stay till 2? Nobody's in a rush? All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Cineco's parametric insurance after hurricanes is now available for motor policies. Fixed automatic payouts cover incidental vehicle expenses like fuel, cleanup, and minor repairs. No claims, no damage required. $200 for comprehensive policies or $100 for third-party policies. Available exclusively through Cineco and included with all new motor insurance policies and upon renewal for current policies. Visit Cineco.ky today. Cineco, keeping Cayman covered.
This year, we're taking the Fet for a Cause one step further. Welcome to One Fet. Get ready for an unforgettable night featuring some of the top DJs on island, bringing you the ultimate vibe. From start to finish is pure vibes, good energy, and non-stop music. And the best part, 100% of the proceeds go towards supporting the Cayman Islands Cancer Society and autism acceptance. So this year, you're not just partying, you're partying with a purpose. It all kicks off Friday, May 22nd, 8 p.m. at Sandbar. Don't miss your chance to be a part of something bigger. Get your tickets now at the boxoffice.ky and get ready to take over the streets on Saturday, May 23rd with the Fet for a Cause family. One Fet, one vibe, one cause, one unforgettable experience. One Fet sponsors AI Rentals, CarQuest, Ace, Parker's, Coca-Cola, Tortuga, Stingray Media, Sandbar, Mike's Ice, Radio Cayman, Valvoline, and D&B Audio Technic.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Welcome back, and we are talking about population growth and environmental protection, housing. Where are we going to put all these people that keep coming? And in the studio with me is Kenneth Ebanks, Clytus to all the rest of us, Laura Bowery Eggleshaw, and Mario Ebanks are in the studio. We do have a caller on the line, so let's go to the phone lines. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon. Kenneth, I think you will remember that about, I would say 24, 25 years ago, they had a planning subcommittee.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
That was on it.
Yep.
And you know, we came up with a lot of good things that needed to be done.
Yep.
And I remember for sure one of them was to stop destroying Iron Shore, stop building on the seaside. And it wasn't long afterwards when that building was put down that they called Paradise Restaurant or something, somewhere across from, almost right across from where Dr. Roy's house was on South Church Street there.
Uh-huh.
So that was the first break of it. And then it just seemed to go like lightning with building all along the coast. As long as we're a rich person and, you know, could get away, that way with the fees and concessions. And it is really a shame that our governments have continued to prolong getting a new planning law. It's no excuse, in my opinion, why this could not have been done years and years ago and done properly.
Amen.
Caymanians involved and included in it to have things done right. And as for the district council, that is in the Constitution. Who's breaking the law? Our own lawmakers.
Yeah,
They
but
find every excuse in the world because they don't want Caymanians to get involved. They prefer to be fully in charge so that they can let these foreigners have everything they want. Because all like up there by Prospect Point, I heard that when a Caymanian owned that property and wanted to build on the seaside, they told him no, they would not allow it. The man sold the property. When he sold it, then that's when the buildings went up. So that's how it is. Kisses go by favor. Caymanians are left behind. in every way, shape, and form. They just don't listen. You write to them, they don't even answer you, they don't even acknowledge your letter, much less reply to you. Thank you. All the best.
All right, have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good point.
Yeah, I remember that setup. We were then proposing a new development plan or review to the existing one, and we had various subcommittees through the districts, and we had a really good process going. And then we had the coup, I think that was in 2001, and then things went south from there.
Because that 2000, the government got elected in November 2000, really put a lot of emphasis early in their tenure on development plan.
Yeah.
Did this committee come into action in the vacuum of no district councils?
Yeah, I think the caller who called earlier from West Bay as well talked about district council, and I think I think you're right. This is part of the reason that we exist, because there hasn't been an effective district council. But we are the only district who actually did a feedback committee to look at this particular planning statement. And so, what I asked earlier about whether we have political connections or whatever the person asked about, no, we're totally apolitical, we're neutral. But we're also suggesting to other districts that they should form a similar kind of committee, feedback committee that looks at these big issues, and maybe that could be a precursor to a district council. But we got formed because there was no other body, and we filled that gap. So that's a good insight.
WhatsApp message here, and again talking about housing, and it says planning is like a rampant pack. Why should it take 5 years to get a CO for a finished house? They always come up with retrospective stuff, yet they allow and ignore the many blatant violations like the wild two-story house structures near Cracked Count, right on the road. I don't know if it actually takes 5 years to get a CO, but does that hold up the housing that is available for people? That kind of bureaucracy?
I mean, having spent 30 odd years there myself, I can give a little bit of insight.
Yeah.
Not any one application is identical to the next. There could be a number of reasons why that's happening, but it should not take that long. Once you get your inspections, you apply for them in a timely manner. The work is completed to the approved plans. Then no, it shouldn't take that long. A house, again, depending on how busy the inspectors are, etc. Once your inspections have all passed, I can't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to get the actual paper document, your CO, within the next week. I mean, there really shouldn't be any need, because once the inspections are passed, it's just a matter of actually preparing the form and sending it to you.
Is that a common complaint, though, about people having to wait for a CO?
Yes. No, this is the first time I'm hearing 5 years.
Yeah.
No.
It sounds extraordinarily long.
Yeah. Now, again, I don't know whether or not, I think they said it was an existing building. So maybe, trying to get the CO, the building the house that they have didn't have a CO before.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was always part of the law, it was not always enforced. So now that they have a house, they may want to get a CO for it. Then they have to go through a certain process now to ensure that the building is up to the current standards. Because you can't really sort of pass.
Some things may have been skipped over back in the day.
Right. That could be one reason. I don't know, but 5 years is definitely too long.
Mm-hmm. We have another caller on the line. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Talk Today.
Good afternoon. How are you all?
Good
Good, thank you.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
Good
We
afternoon.
heard you.
Yes, I was just listening to the lady caller about selling the land, and then people can't build on it, but when they sell it to someone else, they get approved to build things right away. I'm going to say this in a different way. It is different strokes for different folks. And let me tell you, that's not only happening here. Everywhere you go on this island, Caymanians can't build. The land is too small. They're giving them a hard time. They're taking their land. They're not even paying them for the land that they take for roads for government. And then they're moving on to something else. They're taking the poor people land. They're not expecting them to pay. You know, people that have land should be paid before they can even go to make a road. The thing is, you can't make a road unless you have to get it approved. And then they're coming in and saying, oh, they have to get this, they have to get that, and they're going to move in before they pay. Tell me, where in Cayman do you get anything if you don't pay before you receive? Even at Burger King, you pay before you get your burger. So I'm saying now that government, when they're going into these people's properties to make roads and stuff, they should have the money to pay the people before they go in to make the roads. Nothing in Cayman is free. Nothing is free. And all the foreign people come in here, Caymanians can't build, but you sell it to a foreigner within a month, the building is up and ready for occupancy. So these things have to be looked into. We Caymanians built this island, and we should have privileges upon these foreign people. Thank you for listening.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Any, from your experience, does that happen?
Okay.
Does what happen?
What she said, what do you call it?
They said Caymanian can't build on it. They sell the land. Boom. Building is up.
Okay.
Next month.
Yeah. The caller before this last one. Talking about prospect. Because the land is so shallow, like between the coastline and the road, yeah, it was literally impossible to meet minimum setbacks, just visually. In those days, the setbacks was from the low water mark, which then a number of surveyors were waiting until they get low tide, and then they would go in to see. And in that area, it's very shallow, so you get dry land fairly quick, and low water mark is much farther from the coastline. And that's how those units were allowed to be built there, because the survey was taken from the low water mark quite a distance from the quote-unquote land under normal conditions.
Now, talking about the high low water mark, you mentioned a while ago about that if your land is eroded by the sea, you can own what's underwater.
That is correct, because once you have your your survey registered and your land, you own land up until your high water mark. So, for example, if your house or building, let's say 100 feet from your high water mark, but as in the case like along 7 Mile Beach, the sea now is up against your building. So that 100 feet is underwater, but you still technically and legally own between your house or your building and that 100 feet in front of you.
But is
because that is your land, even though under normal circumstances it would be considered the Queen's Bottom, which is public. Once it's surveyed out there, it is still yours.
But is that fair? Like, if you're solely responsible for that erosion by building a seawall too close to the sea, causing the erosion, is that fair? Because you're affecting not just your land, but the whole 7 Mile Beach, now, because that's a domino effect.
Because you could say no swimming right here. This is my land. Don't swim here.
Right? Yeah, if you look closely at some maps,
ideas.
Yeah, some maps along parts of 7 Mile Beach. We got these ledges in different places, right? You'll find that the actual high water mark is on those ledges. So where before you could walk on the sand between the sand and the ledges, now technically, and your high water mark was normally behind, further inland. Technically, right now, the high water mark is out in the sea. And you will be trespassing if you walk between the sea and that ledge.
We got to take a break. Be right back.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
Cayman Art Week is back and bigger than ever, with art on show at over 50 venues across all 3 islands from Tuesday the 26th to Sunday the 31st of May. From one-off pop-ups and creative collaborations to open studios and late-night gallery hours, all events are free and there's art on sale for every budget. Join a guided bus tour or visit at your own pace. You'll find everything you need to know at CaymanArtWeek.com.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The Spring Labor Force Survey and Quality of Life Survey conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office is currently underway. The Labor Force Survey collects information on employment and unemployment in the Cayman Islands, while the Quality of Life Survey gathers feedback on well-being, financial security, community belonging, and overall life satisfaction. Trained interviewers with official ESO ID cards will visit randomly selected households. All interviews are confidential under the Statistics Act, and no individual information will be published. For details, call the ESO hotline at 516-3329.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Welcome back. And Mario, you wanted to speak about Dr. Pedley's populations report?
Yes, thank you, Chalo.
That was from when?
Dr. Philip Pedley did a report in December 2007. And Dr. Pedley, of precious memory, was principal policy advisor. And he did this report to the Chief Secretary and Portfolio of Internal and External Affairs in December 2007. And it's very interesting, some of the findings of the report. I just summarize a few things quickly. He said that in the years 1970 to 2006, Cayman Islands witnessed a massive 428% increase in population. 428% increase in 1970 to 2006. And then he said that what this means is that a Caymanian born 1970 has already seen the population multiply 5 times. By the time he or she is 50 years old, it will have multiplied 10 times if the present trend continues. Few communities experience growth of this kind in a single generation. And he asked in the report then, what's that going to mean for population in 20 years? Now, this report was done in 2007. And he forecasted that in 20 years later, essentially 2027, we will have 96,000. We're pretty much at that now. We're 90,000 plus, right? So I would, Dr. Pedley's work and the population forecast that he did, even though he did the kind of conservative and high growth areas, the one that he pitched was the one that we're pretty much at now. And so the question that I have is that why doesn't government look at this report and update the report, but also look at how much people we can accommodate in these islands? They've been talking now for the last 10 years about 100,000. We're almost at 100,000 people now.
We're over 90.
Yeah, we're over 90. So we need to look at population as one of the main pillars, one of the main metrics for managing our country. And if we do that, I think we will start to get it right, even though it's late. I mean, I was very disappointed when they did a referendum in the elections last year, April, and they had the questions about the marijuana and the gambling and about the cruise pier, but there was nothing about growth or population. It would have been a perfect time to ask a question about what kind of population the people of these islands would be sustainable. So Dr. Pedley's work pretty much reinforces the findings of the Chamber of Commerce report that I read from 1993, in that we need a plan and we're growing, but we have to manage that growth. And like I say, the report is available, and I also have it electronically if somebody wants to get it. But it's quite a good one, and I commend it to your listeners, Mr. Chalo.
We do have a caller on the line. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Talk Today.
Hey, good afternoon to you, Charlo.
Hi, how are you doing?
Pretty good, thank you. And good afternoon to your panel, to Clydes, to Mario, and to
Laura.
Good afternoon.
Laura, hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, young man. How are you?
I am well for the most part, Clydes, giving God thanks,
Okay.
Listen to you good guys, fighting the fight, as always, and really appreciate it. I certainly concur with one of the callers I called earlier, that we always have to be appreciative of people who stand in the gap, who seek to speak that vision that we want. And I think that's where I'll start. I just have a few words. There's so much to be said, but I think Cayman has been living, and Caymanians have been living somebody else's vision. And you can draw that circle as wide as you want to. So if somebody asks, well, how so? Well, I think just piggybacking on what Mario just mentioned, which is where I was going to start, is, taking the 30,000 feet kind of viewpoint, that we have multiple things that have to be addressed in one go. We can't just do the development plan because of all of the issues, the spin-offs of that, and all of the negative things that we would have to address. That is, people making the whole notion about slow down and cooling down of the economy and all of that. Mm-hmm. And we have to do that. But then the only way to really look at a development plan is to look at addressing some of the things that I see this government starting to look at, which is to do with our growth. The whole, my studies is in economic development, and there's that tripod variable of the social implications, the environmental implications, and of course the fiscal sort of considerations. And we've been doing development from the standpoint of what does it bring in from a money standpoint. It's the reasons why our environment has suffered. It's sort of the issues that you're talking about right now. It's the reason why that tripod variable on the social considerations Caymanians are feeling, certainly has been feeling over the years, that we've been living a nightmare. Now, all of us, including, of course, your guests that are in there, have been the beneficiaries of our development from a standpoint of living the standards that we live in. But we have been also saying that we needed to have this slowed down from a very long time ago and plan for us as a country. There's a nation building aspect of this that is left out all the time. And if our government, and this is the first government, in my view, in my years of being in Cayman as a Caymanian, that I have seen is taking a kind of more holistic view of all the rest talked about nation building, and they put together slush funds and a whole nine and talked about fixing people homes and those kind of things versus truly understanding what that meant. And so that 30,000 view, in my view, we need to be doing multiple things at one point in time. And as I said, this government has started it when they start looking at labor and then also looking at the immigration situation. And so, yes, the development plan is crucial and part and parcel of that and cannot be done in isolation because we don't want to have the negative spin-offs of it. But we need to start now. And I totally agree with the panel there. There's so much to be said. And so much to be done. And I just applaud them for being willing to always stand in the gap. And certainly where I can, I will help in that regard. And yeah, that's really what I wanted to share right now, that we need to always remember that we need to start. We need to take that 30,000 foot or feet of whatever you'd like view and understand that nothing is in isolation. Economic development is at the thrust of it. That's also really quickly why I'm so very much applauding the finance minister who has economic development and some of his most recent sort of considerations surrounding economic development and trying to limit the whole monopolistic vantage point. He is so very correct in that regard. So very correct. And I guess the very last thing I'll say is, because I just had this conversation with someone, our new Caymanian, and I'm doing this on purpose, Mr. Dart, excellent contribution to our country on so many fronts. There's no denying that. But on the other hand, we know the serious implications that it's had for us as a people, as the social consideration, and as the environment of this whole entire economic development. And there's one thing you can't fault from him, which is perhaps the best, and he has the best economic developers. I've worked there for 5 years. They understand process. They understand that you have to apply to develop and to build, and if you get the applications, they did nothing wrong. They don't bypass anything. They don't do anything under the board. They go through the process that we have in place, and we have allowed it through that very process.
True.
If we're seeking to curtail it, we need to do it the way that the minister was looking at it. We need to draw back those open markets and the whole nine and put down the stakes that we necessarily want. And I also admire him also. There's one other thing I'll say to that about that developer, because that's a big part of where we're at also, is that I admire that he seeks to, or the organization seeks to develop Caymanians in many spaces. We can look at the real estate program he just started, the hotel program that he just started. Those are the things that we need. Those are as part of that plan that we need, but it needs to be planned. And the government is who I fault all of the previous governments, and I'm putting everything on this one because they have started on the right journey. Lots of work to do. Thank you again.
Amen.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And it's 2:00, but I'm going to lock the door so my guests can't leave. They're going to stay with us. we got to go to the newsroom. We'll be right back.
Little Cayman, Kim and Bragg. Cover me. Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines.
The Headline News is brought to you by Kirk Market.
With your latest headlines, I'm Elizabeth Charles. The Cayman Crystal Caves have been ranked the 5th best attraction in the world by TripAdvisor. In its 2026 Traveler's Choice Awards, the platform cited strong visitor reviews, excellent service, and the site's underground views. The ranking places the caves above major global landmarks, including the Eiffel Tower and the Roman Colosseum. It is also the only Caribbean attraction to make the list. Tourism officials say the recognition reflects continued interest in Cayman's natural attractions and visitor experiences. In international news, U.S. President Donald Trump says the United States may launch new strikes against Iran within days if negotiations fail. In a report today, Trump told reporters he had been about an hour away from approving an attack before delaying action following a new proposal from Tehran. Trump said Iran is seeking a deal. Their proposal includes ending hostilities, lifting sanctions, and releasing frozen funds, according to state media reports. In other news, Nestle and Danone are facing fresh scrutiny over how they handled infant formula recalls linked to a contamination. Investigations by European public broadcasters have questioned delays in alerting authorities about cerulite, a toxin that can cause vomiting and diarrhea and poses risks to infants. The contamination was traced to an ingredient supplied by a Chinese company and led to recalls in several countries. Reports say some products remained in distribution before public recalls were issued. Nestle denies the allegations, saying it followed strict safety procedures and acted transparently. Danone has not responded to requests for comment. Those are the latest headlines. I'm Elizabeth Charles.
www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Welcome back, and I understand we are having some technical difficulties. Was 105 is off the air, Paul? And what other frequency? Yeah, 105 breeze. That's off the air right now. If you've been trying to get them on your radio or on your app, but we're checking into that and seeing what is wrong. And taking a look at the weather here, it's 88 degrees here in Georgetown, and now it's feeling like 100 degrees. Yeah. The heat is on. Yeah, I tell you. And we are expecting, afternoon isolated showers and thunderstorms. And taking a look at the forecast for tonight, mostly clear skies with a 30% chance of showers in the early morning and possible thunder, particularly across the Sister Islands. Temperatures will fall to the low 80s. Winds will be easterly at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. And we have some callers who have been hanging in there patiently, so let's go to the phone lines. Oh, okay. We lost those callers. You all wanted to make some specific points. Mario?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make a comment to the previous caller. He's a fine young man from West Bay and hopefully a future MP or a future minister. But I just want to say to him and to the listeners that in all of this thing about long-term planning and about nation building, unfortunately, many politicians get sidetracked or lost their seats because of voters' gullibility. I give you one example of an individual happened in two times. In I mentioned Honorable Benson O.E. Banks, who is now a national hero. In 1975, thereabouts, he was the leader of government and he was pushing forward this idea of development plan review and a lot of infrastructure projects. But in 1976, he lost the government, lost his seat. Right? Then he got he got back in 1980, I think, and then served 80, 84, 84 to 88. And then he, in 92, he was 1992. He lost the election again, and at that time they were pushing the Master Ground Transportation Plan, the hotel moratorium on 7 Mile Beach, and the Caymanian protection of Caymanians in the workplace. All very, very good topics in all cases. But because of voters' gullibility and because of politics, those kind of big issues got scuttled. So I'm saying to people that as Caymanians, we have to be more alert and more, we look at the big picture. Certainly got to elect people that are good people and that are approachable, but also people who are dealing with the issues and not with the personalities. And so I just want to shout out I want to mention to that caller, sometimes doing the right thing is not necessarily good politics.
But with all these reports, I mean, the red flags were hoisted, but it just seems like nobody paid attention.
That's it.
And as one caller was saying, the mentality, the school of thought was, well, if you stop them, they're going to go somewhere else and they won't come back.
Yes. Perhaps there was not enough sort of counterbalance to those arguments to educate people, but people were actually misled in certain instances, and some of the big projects or big nation building issues got scuttled or got sidetracked.
And also, I mean, real estate was touted as one of the pillars of our economy. So, like, nobody wanted to mess with that, right?
Which I want to speak to in a minute, but I want to give Laura a chance to make one of 2 points.
And before I do that, is there another radio station? Because some people are texting me saying 105 is off. Is there another one they can go on to?
Yeah, well, 89.9 is on, right,
That's
Paul?
what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, Laura.
Okay, I didn't understand you on that. We're 89.9. Okay, so we're actually just streaming.
Oh.
So if you want, if you're trying to listen to the radio, I guess you won't hear me. But yeah, so that is most unfortunate that this discussion is not being broadcast right now. It is streaming, so it'll have to be you can catch it streaming now, or it'll be up there later today permanently that you can go back. So I don't know. Really disappointed on that.
Just no, or all, the entire show?
Yeah, I think it just went out recently.
Okay.
I was just.
It could be a power issue, he said, because
rain.
There was some. The forecast was calling for thunderstorms. So maybe lightning. We're not sure.
Call Loxley.
But. No,
yes.
we are still streaming online, so go ahead with your point.
Okay. Besides what I said earlier about reminding the public to hold our government, or whichever government is in at the time, accountable, the contracts that we had before the Cayman Constitution Order, Part 1, Section 18, the one I read before, and the Environmental Charter. There was also promises made at the last COP. Well, COP26, not the last one, but COP26, when the premier at the time was Mr. Wayne Panton. And I'm sure more were made at the last COP as well. And these are promises that the whole world hears, right? These are global promises. So everyone hears these promises that Cayman makes as well, what we're going to do. And a few of those where government had promised that the climate change policy that was drafted in 2011 would be updated. Now, I'm not sure what's been done with these promises, if anything has happened. Also, that new regulations were implementing to enhance protection of approximately 50% of Cayman's coastal shelf as marine parks. So when we're talking about, going by water, waterways, whatever, we have to remember that tourism is a big part of our economy. And the last thing we want to do is disturb that carrying capacity as well, right? We want to keep our waters as clean and pristine, clear as possible, and have more fish, marine enhancement. And then the other thing that was also promised was Cayman had passed a national energy policy that seek to have 70% of Cayman's energy from renewable sources by 2037. So these were all promises that were made. Are we holding whichever government that's then accountable for these promises? Have they been met? Has anything been updated? So the public should, everyone can do something. No one should feel helpless. You can write a letter, write an email or a text to your MP or in a compass.
Are you hopeful that something is happening now with this government, or do we need public pressure to
I
continue?
am hopeful, but we still need public pressure.
You're
and
hopeful
moral
that
support.
This government is addressing.
I think they're trying.
I think on the question of the pace of development and the concrete jungle development, we have to wait and see a bit, because I think the government, the more they borrow and the more they spend, means they have a bigger appetite for money to be able to pay those bills. So if they don't curtail their spending, they have little choice in terms of what they can say no to, because they need every cent to pay those bills. So it's a catch-22.
Mm-hmm. I just got an update that there's a power outage in Lower Valley. That's where our transmitters are, so that's why we're having our problems with our over-the-air transmission. But we do have a caller on the line, so let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. You're on the air with Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you.
There he is.
Your distinguished guest. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon.
I'm having no issue with hearing you and so forth. I just like this is a thing that requires hours and hours of conversation for people, especially young people, to understand that what they see here in Cayman today, a lot of the beautiful condos and townhouses, apartment buildings, like some beautiful houses, built on pumped up land. Land was once sea. Salt Creek is a primary example, and all around here, Governor's Harbor, etc. I'm not asking anyone. I'm telling you what I know. So thousands of acres of land was, the mangroves were torn down over the past 50, 60 years along West Bay Beach. Built those things. Now many very wealthy people and highly paid people who have come in here to work in the financial world and so forth now occupy, and their children may get up and say, well, I want to preserve on our coastlines and stuff. So we have a big dilemma here. When a little Caymanian gets up and says, my piece of swampland that I here for generations, well, I want to develop it, I want to fill it in and build it, tear down those, and they tell him, no, he can't do it. So there we have a dilemma here, and we know that's happening, and so forth. My cousin Jim Borden often said, Mick, we're living not in a dream world, but a Disney world. It's just not real. So we have to accept the fact that our lifestyle has changed completely once we started into the financial world and stop depending on our seamen going to sea. Very beautiful, different days. I remember it very well when we'd have to wait. The banks would have to wait on money to pay the merchants' bills coming home from seamen's allotment. Before that, it was the turtling, that animal, the most revered animal in Cayman's history. It gave us our seafaring abilities. And we are a totally different society from what many of us would like to think about and would like us to go back to and would like us to preserve. It's not going to happen. We can and we should have a long time ago developed a public transport system. It could have happened. This is something we have discussed for donkey's years. It will go on and on and on and on. And we had ferries from north side. So Cecil Fox had a ferry in the early 1970s, very well, north side to Mike Simmons' tropical garden development. That came in. So that's nothing new. It's not a new idea at all. So we're going back to things that we used to do, could have further developed. Yes, we need to finish up that road east-west or wherever it's going to go. We need to do that. We need to get it going. We need a proper public transport system. We need to stop importing cars. But these things take courage, and that's where we're lacking. Courage to get up and tell the people, just like you're talking about at first. We're going to have to change the style of what we're doing about public housing and low-cost housing. It's going to have to be apartment buildings and little town houses and so forth. People are going to have to accept that fact. Period. It's not going to be everybody has a little house and land, just like you were saying in the beginning. You're right. It's not. That's not the way to go, and it won't be. But we have to tell the people the truth. This is what we have done. We're on the gravy train. It's almost impossible to stop this runaway train. Money, 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 money. And the money is coming in by these folks building these huge hotel buildings and these huge condos on the beach. Many of them are being built by Caymanian developers and so forth. So we've just got to accept the truth. It's a different Cayman. We've stepped into this Disney world. My cousin Jim Borden always talked about some 40 50 years ago nearly, that this is how it is, and this is the way of moving forward, whether you like it or not. You're on this gravy train, and just accept the fact that this is what is. We can change a few things, like I said, with the housing development. We can stop the importation of cars. We can do those things. It takes courage, because we can't fill this place up with cars every day. That's ridiculous. 90% of the cars driving are very close to that one person. Just one person. One person.
Well, Mickey, thank you for your input.
Thank you very much for listening, and let me talk, but that's just the way I see it.
All right. You take care. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much, sir.
Laura, you want to say something?
1 second. I think we should remind the audience listening again that not everything has to be accepted as the damage is done and we can't do anything. As I mentioned once before, remember back in the 1980s when the ozone layer was growing and it was going to become a real problem for everyone on Earth, not just Cayman. It was a global problem. And the whole world came together and changed, made policies to ban CFCs, which are chlorofluorocarbons. All of that happened. And then there was a policy, the Montreal Protocol signed in September 1987, banning aerosol spray. The banning of that aerosol spray rectified that situation. This was a global situation, right, for the whole planet Earth. Things can change. People can make a difference to go back and undo the damage that was done. So there is always hope, and if you don't try, you won't see a change.
Exactly.
So just
true.
that's a big example of a change that people made.
Yep.
Yeah, but
good point.
You have a call or
no? Go ahead.
Okay. Two things. One, our planning legislation referred to as development and planning.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, by the very name, it means more emphasis is placed on development than planning.
Yep.
Having said that, and I would say the vast majority of Caymanians would agree that our current trajectory is not good. We're going to soon get to the edge of that cliff. We're approaching there real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And in my view, and Mickey, if you're still listening, I'm sure you'll probably agree with me, our current economic model, whereby land sales, work permit, development approvals, what sort of contributes a significant amount to our revenue. If you slow those things down, then you cut your revenue.
Mm-hmm.
You cut your revenue, you can't provide as many services as you promised in your campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we want to rein in this runaway horse for a little bit, then we're going to need some other form of revenue. And that's where, in my view, Mickey, I know there are several people out there in the private sector as well, but they would not say it publicly. There has to be some form of direct taxation, whether it's through your income or land or property, including buildings. We have to get there someplace, because continuously selling a property, encouraging more person to come so you can get more money from work permits, and continue constructing, then nothing much is going to change unless our economic model changes.
And on that note, let's take this last break.
Your tempo.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning.
Ouch!
When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
"50 years of service, 50 years of connection. Congratulations to Radio Cayman on reaching this incredible milestone. Since 1976, Radio Cayman has been the trusted voice of the Cayman Islands, informing, educating, and uniting our community across generations. From breaking news and national updates to cultural celebrations and inspiring conversations, Radio Cayman has been there every single step of the way. To the dedicated team behind the microphone and everyone who has contributed to this proud legacy, thank you, thank you, thank you for your unwavering service and commitment to excellence. And to our listeners who have made Radio Cayman the heartbeat of our islands for a half a century, we celebrate this movement with you. Here in the Sister Islands, we depend on Radio Cayman, especially during the hurricane seasons. We simply cannot do without you. Congratulations once again to Radio Cayman on 50 years of service to the people of the beautiful Cayman Islands. May the good Lord continue to bless this institution and all those who keep its mission alive and well.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
All right, we got about 6 minutes left in the show. And real quick, what are you all hearing from young people? Because they're the ones that are going to be living in whatever is done now in the future. They're going to be the ones living this futuristic Cayman.
I am hearing some mixed signals from young people. Some are very worried about where we are going in terms of the Cayman, in terms of affordability of housing and job and career progression and cost of living and the social pressures. But others seem to want to continue the economic boom because they also want to benefit immensely from the growth. So again, that's the lack of public education in terms of our choices and what is really sustainable for us and our carrying capacity. And I want to agree with my colleagues here who said early on to Mr. McKay's call about the way forward. I mean, we can't reverse everything, or we can't reverse much, but we can mitigate and we can manage things better. And that's what we're saying. We got to look at our carrying capacity and look at what we can manage better. And that's what we're all about. And we want to encourage West Bayers who want to get involved in the West Bay Feedback Committee or other districts as well to form a similar committee to get out there and keep engaged.
But Mickey is right, isn't he? I mean, it really is no use trying to hold on to a 1980s Cayman.
It's gone.
I mean, this is Cayman. What we see here today.
It's evolving.
But
At the moment.
Yeah.
It's evolving.
It could be a totally different Cayman in 50 years from now.
Yeah, but in 1980s Cayman, in what respect?
Well, I mean, the population for one thing. You know, there was traffic back then, but it just the difference. I mean, when you think back 45 years ago, you know, it was very different from what we have today.
I couldn't agree more. But those are things that are man-made.
Mm-hmm.
We can unmake them. If we did proper planning and having these traffic generators.
Well, that's where we messed up, right?
Exactly.
Dr. Pedley put his report in. These other reports were made, and nobody, you know, wanted to take the bull by the horns and put a plan in place.
When the government that was in power during 1975, and I think there was 12 members.
Yes.
And 11 lost their seat because of the proposed development plan in 1975.
Yes. Yes.
What was that advocating? What was
well, a lot more open land. It had a road, which is basically what we've been following now as best we can because of existing development. We had a road from West Bay straight to East End.
So when you have a political development such as that, we really don't have any room to be getting on the air and saying, oh, the foreigners are doing all this.
No, it's ourselves, our own voters, our own electorate. Yes.
Well, our government really, because we're voters and we didn't want any of this to happen.
We elected the politicians.
I know, but we didn't know what decisions they were going to make when they got in there and what contracts they were going to sign with real estate developers.
We're not aware enough. We're not informed.
But when the electorate rejects that, I mean, that's an outright rejection. 11 out of 12 loses their seats. I mean, the people are saying, no, we don't want to hear what you are advocating.
But also more recently, with the Master Ground Transportation Plan, again, the alignment of that sort of east-west arterial was more or less a scene that was designed in 1969.
Exactly.
And they didn't want that. That was too big. Now they're basically following the same alignment as best they can because of existing conditions. So from the 60s, that road, as an example, was there, and we kept putting it off or securing an alignment, and then we were just doing it sort of piece by piece. And I think Gilbert McLean has to be sort of commended for having actually had a designated route from Georgetown to East End.
Linford Pearson before that as well.
The Linford Pearson Master Ground Transportation Plan.
Right. He had a proposal.
We're right down to the end of the line here, but take a minute and let's say, where do we go from here?
Could I just start to say that we need to get people involved, and I think that government really now has to look at that. One of the things they can look at is the setbacks from the coastal areas for development. That will help a lot of issues. The other thing I believe is that for trade and business license applications, if individuals cannot show that they have a realistic source of Caymanian labor, their business license may need to be deferred or rejected, because if you have to get a business license and bring in large amount of foreign labor, who are we developing for? We have to take some tough decisions, but at the end of the day, make it a better Cayman for everybody.
Any other final words?
Yeah, write to your MPs. Everyone can do that, or email them and mention the Cayman Islands Constitution Order and all the promises and contracts that were made that are still valid, and just make your voice heard. And don't wait for the next election to do so. Do so tomorrow.
On housing, the private sector has to play a greater role. For example, this hotel right next door, where are those people going to stay? We're going to get Caymanians doing some illegal development, which is substandard, and then planning gives them an enforcement notice to knock it down. If you can't provide housing for your seasonal workers, no permission to build.
Amen.
That's some tough calls.
Charlotte, we want to thank you and Radio Cayman for giving us the time and this beautiful new studio. And thank you for giving us the entire show. It's a very important topic. So,
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for Talk Today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Charles Glidden. One love.
Talk Today is brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066.